How many of you guys were here last week and heard Will's talk? All right. For those of you guys who didn't hear it, I posted it on YouTube. It is almost imperative that you listen to that. It was the best talk that I've seen him give. It was better on Saturday when he gave it for the Saturday morning guys. It is something that talked about our principles, why we do what we do, and why we're even here in the first place. For you guys who weren't here, just to give you an idea, he just backstepped and started looking back at where we came from, and then his fears about where we might go. But on Saturday, and I wanted to share this with you before I started into everything, he shared something with the Saturday guys that he did not share with you. And he told the story about an old Englishman back in the 17th century. This man was a part of the Church of England. He listened to what they were saying. They essentially, the Church of England ruled back in the 1700s. And this man kind of looked at his Bible and started reading what was in there, and he looked at what the Church of England was asking them to do with all the rituals and all the rules and all the regulations, and he said to himself, this doesn't jive with what the Bible actually says. This man decided that he was going to go out here and he was going to start his own little group. And what he started on the principles that we started on is very similar. It's about coming together. It's about being authentic. It's about praying for each other. It's about walking with each other. And it's about reading Scripture and helping each other apply that to our lives. That man was John Wesley. And you know, the thing about John Wesley was that he was probably the most influential person back in the 1700s. What started out as small groups, because of the way they were designed, they grew and they grew. They not only took over and infiltrated the entire continent of Europe, but it also crossed over the ocean to America. I want to share what he said. And this is the large thing. And I want to relate that to what Will said last week, because his concern was that we could just turn out to be a religious group where we came together and we didn't do anything, and we just came in and talked about ourselves and talked about what was going on. And this is what John Wesley said. He was talking about the Methodists. All right, those small groups that were on fire for God is the Methodist Church today. And so you can see that it's not the same thing, based on what I know about the Methodist Church, as what he saw back in the 1700s. And he said to somebody, I am not afraid that the people called Methodists should ever cease to exist either in Europe or in America. But I am afraid that they should exist as a dead group, having the form of religion without the power. And this will undoubtedly be the case unless they hold fast to the doctrine, the spirit, and the discipline with which they set out. And Will took us back to the principles, the guidelines, the reason why we met, the reason why we meet now. It's about leaving the religious crap in the parking lot. It's about getting honest and open at the tables. It's about coming to a place where there is safety and there is freedom to be able to talk about the things that you really struggle with, to even admit that you don't understand God, to admit when you're struggling with God, for us to walk together and to do this together. Because you know, what he's talking about, our principles, what Will talked about, our principles from last week, James said it so well. He says, do not be merely a listener to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. And there's a principle I want to throw out there, a broad principle today, and is application means everything. Think about it. I don't know how many of you guys have ever done this. I have. In fact, I just did it recently. Have you ever, just tell me if you have, you can raise your hand. Have you ever joined a gym, bought some exercise equipment, read a diet book, decided to get healthy? Josh has already got his hand raised. Have you ever done that? Is there everybody that's done that? Yeah, everybody has done that. All right. And that's you even go to the place where you're looking at the machinery. If you're going to the gym and you're thinking, yeah, I can do this, yeah, okay, I'm getting nods. I did this 3 weeks ago. I've been wrestling with the whole idea. I need to get back in the gym. I haven't worked out in forever. All right, I turned 51 this week. I need to do something because things are beginning to sag where they should not sag, and I'm thinking, I got to do a better job at this. All right, that was 3 weeks ago. First week, I did great. I went 3 times. Second week and third week, which was the last 2 weeks, Woody left, which means we had Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, because Joe was gone, had to go to Roanoke, and Saturday mornings, and I didn't get in the gym in the last 2 weeks. But when I did that thing online, I don't know about you, when I did that thing online before I even went, I felt better about myself. I felt healthier. I was making a good decision. Even before I walked into the gym, and I got that bag, I got my bag ready, I got my shirt, my t-shirt, my tennis shoes, all of that, put it in the bag, and put it in the back of my car, and that's where it's sat for the last 2 weeks. And I don't know about you, but I have all the intention of the world of following through on that. And I thought about maybe I could do it today, and then the day just got shot. And now I'm thinking maybe I can find some time to do it tomorrow. And I find that the longer that I go, the longer that I push it off. It felt good while I was making those plans, but actually applying it and doing it and following through with it is quite another thing. I don't know how many of you have home improvement projects, right? That when you go to the store, you see all this cool stuff, and especially the stuff that shows you how you can do it easier and faster, and you buy all this equipment and the tools. Yeah, I got more smiles now. And you buy the stuff, and then you take it home, and then I put it in a place, and I think, you know what? I'm really tired. I need to take a nap. And then I get up from my nap, and it's like, well, it's too late to start today. And one day passes on to another, and I may start it, but then it may becomes too hard or too difficult. And I just kind of push it off to the side. So I can see from the smiles that I'm hitting a point. So tonight, I wanted to take you to application. And because if we don't apply, then we're just as James is talking about. In fact, he goes on to say that anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror, and after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. You ever think about church in our religious life? I mean, we go to church, we just feel good. Right? It's that feeling that we hear the principles, but we walk out of there, it's kind of like the whole fitness thing. We walk out of there and we feel like, you know what? That was good. I feel closer to God because of that. But then I don't do anything with it. And so when I tell myself I feel closer to God, I'm lying to myself. All right? I haven't made one bit of movement. I haven't done any of the application. I haven't stepped into this and said, okay, let me look at my life. What in my life doesn't jive up with what God is saying I should do? Or what is the principle that they taught in church yesterday that I'm not applying? So tonight, we're going to apply the principles because I think it's the most important thing that we can do. We're going to apply one principle, and it's on my shirt. It's no man left behind. You heard the story of Joe and Jared yesterday. All right? You heard the story of Jared going back and finding Joe. because they had that relationship. He knew where he was going to be. He knew what Joe was going to need. And when he heard that Joe was struggling, he turned around and he went back. And I thought, do we really have that here? Let me ask you a question. Do you know who was sitting at that corner table last week that isn't here tonight? Do you know who was sitting at your table last week that wasn't here tonight? Do you know, has anybody called you this week and talked to you, asking you where you are with God? How are you doing? What are you struggling with? Have you called anybody and asked them? Does anybody really know what's going on in your life?